another review. Let's quickly go back, right? Season 1 of Warriors we're introduced to a character named Assam, right? He's fresh off the boat, landed in San Francisco, and this is all based on the writings of Bruce Lee. So if you're not familiar with the show, you need to check it out. So now the show is set into 1800s, right before the Chinese Exclusion Act. The culture of the show revolves around the California Gold Rush, the first transcontinental railroad, which during the time when gold became scarce and white Americans weren't finding enough gold, they became really pissed off with other people who found gold. So there actually are documents and actual things in history where the resentment was so serious that it led to like the Rock Springs Massacre of 1885 and the Hell Canyon Massacre of 1887. So the show attempts to address the struggles of people of color. You get to see sick Chinese workers working themselves to death. The language and dialogue is so delicately written to draw in the viewer, especially when they use terms like coolie, which is actually an Anglo-Indian word that's supposed to mean like burden bearer or bitter worker, right? So Assam, who is played by Andrew Koji, he's fighting with this journey of finding his sister, right? So he's sold by Wang Chao, who's played by Hoon Lee, and he joins the Tongs. He becomes closer to Father June, and he meets Ah Toy, who is actually a real person. She's played by Olivia Chang. She's actually a notorious madam. In fact, she's so badass. And one time she went to court after they raided her brothel. She was like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I was making rice with chopsticks. I don't know. Like, she's hardcore. So the whole purpose behind the protagonist is because he wants to find his sister Mai Ling and kind of just bring her back home, and she's played by Diane Doan. So he becomes friends with Young Jun, who's played by Jason Tobin, who's always looking to get sticky and scrap. You also get to meet the Irish police, which is Bill O'Hara. He's played by Kieran Bew, who's a complex character who's led his own tribulations by his addiction to gambling. He's partnered with a good old country boy, Richard Lee, who's played by Tom Weston Jones, who's always trying to do the right thing, but escaping your past it's not that easy. Dean Jagger plays Dylan Leary, who's a very angry Irishman, very angry, and he hates the Chinese because they're taking good old American jobs, you know, the ones that they didn't want. So that rage stays throughout the entire season. But Mai Ling travels down like this dark path of resentment towards her brother, and she begins to kind of create and expand on the Tong Wars. Which, by the way, if you're looking for a good book to read, check out The Hatchetman by Richard Dillon, which will explain a little bit more about the Tong Wars. But her brother tries to do everything he can to make it up to her, like what happened in the past. But that choice from his past is what destroys their sibling connection, right? So the more ambitious she becomes, the darker she becomes. And she's trying to regain this power that she lost in China, right? So as this war continues, Mai Ling decides at the very end, we're going to have a duel and we're going to decide who wins out of the Chinatown families, right? Her brother loses. She gives her lover the nod and goes, kill him. Who does that to the brother? I can think of a few, but never mind. So they kind of just severs that sibling connection a little bit more, right? So the show is not shy about talking about the corruption of the police, the government taking advantage of the Chinese, the blacks, and Native Americans, and you kind of see how that setting really affects the characters, right? So the season ends with Assam. He loses the fight. He's won every fight. He's lost everything. And to him, that is worse than death. He's rejected by Father June at the moment, and he's just like, right? So outside of the cinematography, I appreciate the dialogue. I liked how well it was written. I enjoyed the fight scenes. I loved how intriguing and yet in-depth all the characters were. They were still mysterious. I mean, I also like their introduction to which characters speak English and which characters are speaking Cantonese. That was super cool, how they kind of like toyed with it. So now we're here for season 2 tonight. Mai Ling's running Chinatown with an iron fist if she needs to, right? So as this continues, she becomes more ambitious, again, darker path. We now have our lead protagonist who's kind of back with Father June. The problem is he's kind of got his own agenda. He's pissed with his sister, and nobody else really seems to know this. And it just kind of like the plot of season 2 revolves around the selfishness and irresponsibility of two siblings having a fight. There's new characters like Hong. He's my favorite. We also get to meet the mayor's wife, Penny's sister Sophie. Dylan Leary is still like raging on. He's still angry. He's totally angst. We meet Vega. She's pretty cool. But the nice thing about season 2 is that they dive into their personal lives. So like, for example, episode 2, Wang Chao, you learn some things about his personal life that you kind of weren't anticipating, and you kind of see how that develops him as a character. You see how Penny and Assam are still fighting because that was a bad breakup that they had when she called him a criminal. You see a different side of Father June trying to be a father with young June, but he still wants to like. So now we refer back to season 1. Officer Lee gets the crap beaten out of him because of Bill O'Hara, right? So that fighting between Bill and the Hung Hai, like they're still going on and on. But the fact that happened to Lee, it changed him completely. He's a completely different person, and you can see the toll that it really took on him, right? We learn a thing about what Toy's really looking for in life, what motivates her as a person. By episode 6, there's more action, of course, but that episode is dedicated to purely just fighting. You can see different styles of fighting. They even pay homage to Enter the Dragon with certain characters from that film, and even painting Andrew Koji with the infamous scratch marks that Bruce Lee had in that film. So super, super awesome. I can tell by episode 6, the fight scenes were far much more fun. The actors had more fun. They incorporated more people. It's a lot. I'm only up to episode 7. Press points. But I want to know, how does this end? Like, what happens? Like, who fights with their brother like that, man? Like, you guys, for those of you who do like leave comments in the section, I just want to hear about it. I'm actually a little disappointed because I thought I was going to see Young Jun's old lover, the Native American he was in love with. I was like, oh my god, is she coming back? And then I haven't seen her ever since. And I'm like, I still have 3 more episodes to see her. But I have to say, this season has not been disappointing at all. I just finished episode 6. Don't forget, the show actually does air 10 o'clock tonight. Whoop, 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 whoop. But make sure you guys also, just so you guys know, I'm going to be doing a feature interview with my husband, Jason Tobin, who plays Young Jun. I didn't want to tell everyone I was engaged, but it's so much of a secret that even he doesn't know about it. I'm also going to get the chance to interview Kieran Bew, who plays Bill O'Hara, and Perry Young, who plays Father June. Which, by the way, if you see how mellow and laid back this guy, he plays the shakuhachi like flute and stuff like that, and he's so like laid back. So to see him as Father June, you're just like, bruh, what happened? But what I can say is, like, for those of you who are looking like, oh man, how's Warriors? Is it better than the first season? Is it good? Season 2 stands on its own. So I can definitely say that in comparison. So with season 1, it had a different level of intensity in comparison to season 2, because season 2 tends to focus a little bit more on the personal relationships between people. Like, whether you're looking at Assam with Young Jun, you're looking at Young Jun with Father Jun, as father and child. You're dealing with Wang, can't tell that just yet, his situation with what's going on in his personal life. You see what's happening to Choi. There's another character in there. I don't want to tell them just yet. I'll let y'all watch her. You also get to see the rough relationship between Penny and her sister Sophie, who I'm not completely sold on. There's a lot of things going on there. Like, there's just some choices she makes that I'm like, Nani? Shanma? Yeah? Like there's so many confusing things. Vegas pretty cool, like I said earlier. But the fights are far much more fun. They're far much more intense. And it's a fun show. I'm not gonna lie. In fact, while you guys are watching this, I'm gonna be watching episode 7. Press points. But make sure you guys keep up with me. Make sure you look up for sorry, fall is here. But I'm excited fall is here. But yes, make sure you guys check out the upcoming interviews, because I'm so excited for it. Which, by the way, HBO, thank you so much for giving me season 2 ahead of time, so I can brag to my friends, but then like not share. Yeah, I said it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for giving me this opportunity to cover the review, and I'm looking forward to the interviews with you guys. That was probably my quickest review. I'm working on it, right? Because you guys are like, oh, she's gonna be another 20 minutes. Gotcha! Thank you so much. Make sure you guys click that button down to subscribe, comment, leave me some feedback. Tell me what you thought of Warriors 1. What do you think of the setting? The struggles that the people of color have to deal with, at that time. Because as, the Chinese Exclusion Act was actually happening, a lot of that stuff didn't get cleared up until like between the 40s and the 60s, especially after the World War, which is around the same time that a lot of Black Americans were having changes, as well as Native Americans were having changes, because they were like, sorry, we took your land. Sorry, we told you couldn't leave your land. Ugh. All right, that should be good. So a lot of stuff was happening where a lot of people were struggling, here in this country. So I want to know, what do you think? What do you like? Do you feel like the show is authentic? Do you feel like it's like off the like, oh no, it was never like that? I just want to know who's watching this. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Woo!